Hello again, everybody, and welcome to The Last Word. I'm the publisher of the Vegas Voice, Dan Roberts, and our job is to inform all our Vegas Voice readers and listeners as to the people running for office and what their positions are. We have something a little bit different today because with us we have Amber Stidham, if I say it right.
Yeah, you did.
Finally, from the Henderson Chamber of Commerce, and I thank you so much for being here, Amber.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Appreciate it.
You have the greatest title I've ever heard. You are the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Henderson Chamber. I think that's great. Talk a little bit about what that title entails and what do you do for the Henderson Chamber?
I appreciate that, and thank you for the opportunity to join you. The Henderson Chamber. So, the Henderson Chamber is one of numerous chambers throughout the United States of America, many here in Nevada, many in southern Nevada. But our chamber represents about 1,800 businesses throughout the entire southern Nevada region, but most of them are in Henderson. Most of those businesses are small businesses, some are large, and span a variety of different business sectors from our local restaurants to florists to physicians' offices and entertainment venues. And my job as the Vice President of Government Affairs, or all hands on deck staffer, whatever you want to say, is to best represent our member businesses for the betterment of our community, for not only their business, but for all of us, even as residents. So whether that's through policy engagement at all levels of government, or also through our political action committee, which is making endorsements for candidates.
Well, yeah. And that's how we throw you into the last word.
Yeah.
A little bit about the Political Action Committee. Excuse me, what does it entail? What do you do there?
Yeah, sure. Great question. We're one of the very few chamber organizations in the state of Nevada that actually makes political endorsements on behalf of the general business community. And I think most people are probably surprised. I know we were talking earlier about our PAC is a bipartisan PAC. So we have a PAC board comprised of more than 20 business leaders throughout the community that are engaged with the chamber organization that make endorsements for candidates on both sides of the aisle. And it's important. I think traditionally, and I know we were chatting again earlier about this, that I think there's a misconception that there's endorsements made for only Republican.
Positively. Again, I was under that impression that any kind of Chamber of Commerce will always be Republican, but it's not the case with the Henderson Chamber. Yeah. And I think that's very unique. And you're probably one of the few chambers that do something like that.
Well, you would think so, but it's actually not the case. Most chamber organizations that get involved with PAC endorsements make endorsements across the aisle, and for a few reasons. I think traditionally our chamber membership might span the gap of Democrats to Republicans on a lot of social issues, and typically on the business issues they'll be more conservative. And I think that we kind of lean a little bit more Republican in that aspect. But you also have to consider, putting policy together and enacting law that impacts our business community is a two-way street. It happens with both Republicans and Democrats, or any other party that's elected to office for that matter. And you have to be able to have these working relationships with these folks. And there's a lot that happens behind the scene. I know there's jokes about sausage making in politics. Yep. There is a lot of sausage making in politics, but Democrats and Republicans are both part of those conversations, and there's a lot that Democrats and Republicans do to mitigate a lot of things that impact business or help business.
And here's the thing that I find curious is somebody says, I'm running for state office. Again, you don't do federal offices, do you?
No, we do not.
Okay, so just a state.
Sure.
All right, so in this case, someone is running for governor, someone's running for lieutenant governor, even state assembly. Do they contact you? You contact them? What's the process involved?
Sure. Well, it's a little bit of both. I think our organization has been involved with political work for 10 or 15 years now. I've been involved with the chamber for the last 7 years. I spent my drive actually over here to your studio on the phone with about 4 or 5 different candidates reaching out to us because they want to have the business community's support. So it's shifted a lot over the years. I think the PAC's work, the business community's work to this extent has grown a lot over the last few elective cycles to the point where they largely call us first now, which is not a bad place to be. We're the business community and their support is desirable to candidates on both sides of the aisle, and that's exactly where I think we want to be as a community.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
The process itself, I'm running for state assembly. I've never done this before. I'm very new. I contact you, and hopefully you take my phone call. And what's the process entail? Is there a questionnaire? Is there a sit down? You tell me.
Yeah, great question. So we have, usually the candidate reaches out to our organization, and that would be me at our organization, and we usually try to sit down and grab coffee and get to know you a little bit about why you're running for office and how committed that you are to run for office. I think there's always a desire to do great for the community, which is amazing, but there also has to be a desire to win a campaign and be organized and fundraise that will get you elected to office, to create the law that's important to us. And that's also part of the conversation, is kind of gauging not only your interests, what's important to you from a policy perspective, but how committed are you to winning your race and getting elected to office, because otherwise you're just a really well-intentioned person that's probably not going to make it too far.
Have you, again, without naming names, have you found candidates that you realize they're not serious?
Yes,
Or,
all the time.
How about this? They're awfully stupid. Have you found candidates, we're not using the word stupid, I don't want to use that word, but you realize that they're not qualified at all?
Well, I wouldn't use that word. I would say, look, it's kind of like my particular position at the chamber. I have to be a Jill of all trades. I'm not a subject matter expert in construction or healthcare. I have to be a generalist. And some of the candidates that come forth do a really great job of representing a variety of interests, and some of them are zeroed in one particular area. And that's where it's the job of people like myself and other people who represent industry organizations or initiatives, whatever it is, nonprofit organizations, to be a resource to those candidates, to help educate them about what's important in that arena. So I don't think that I would put it as the way that you framed it up. I just think that you also have to see it as an opportunity to help educate and help one another, learn about different issues.
Right, but I would think that if I am serious and I am going to sit down with the Henderson Chamber, I should have some qualities that you look at it and you say, my God, he's right about this, or he's right about that, or whatever. And when you do that, and let's say it passes your first test, does it go before a committee? And what happens then?
Yeah, it does. So we sit down, we have coffee, get to know you a little bit better. And then we bring back those conversations to our board of business leaders and volunteers that make these decisions, and they deliberate on, they look at a variety of different things. And this is pretty typical across a lot of organizations. Usually they look at voter registration trends that are in the district. They look at whether or not you're running in against an incumbent candidate. That's really tough to do, to run against an incumbent candidate, if the timing is right for a new candidate or not. They look at whether or not, for my organization, whether or not you're going to be pro-business, or at least be open to having conversations about business measures. Are you committed to your campaign? Are you out there hustling and fundraising? Do you have somebody that's helping you on the back end? Do you have a campaign manager? Have you had a conversation with your party caucus, whether that's Democrats or the Republicans? So they're providing resources to you. And there's a lot that goes into running for office. Those are all conversations that our PAC board has. Then they deliberate and decide whether or not they want to spend their time and energy meeting formally with a candidate for endorsement consideration. And sometimes that's before the primary election, and sometimes, they just don't have that capacity and reach right now, and so they just wait until ahead of the general election.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that, since I've been living in Henderson, the amount of growth has been unbelievable. Just with the Raiders the Raiders Stadium there, Intermountain. And if you're pro-business and you want to grow business, is there a question of, wait a minute, how can we sustain something like that? Is that an issue for the chamber to look at? Or it's just, if you're for business, that's good?
No, yeah, it's 100% an issue. So we're having those conversations all the time. I have those conversations every single day. And I think, and I'm born and raised here, and I remember when I used to drive from Henderson into Las Vegas, drive into town. My family still says we drive into town when we drive to Las Vegas. There has been a lot of growth in the Henderson and the whole entire valley, but there are concerns. There are a lot of people that live here that want to enjoy, their retired life, but there's also water resource issues. I know there's a lot of business development occurring, so how do we balance that? We're still having, areas of conservation. The chamber's involved with those conversations. We're not so pro-business that we're all we want to see are big box developments all the time. We are having conversations about smart growth what makes sense for, again, water, natural resources, what's happening with electricity, what's happening with natural gas, what makes sense for additional growth while also preserving space for conservation areas. How do we create a community that's great for retirees but also young families? How do we support policies that make sure that we have good, safe communities, but also that we have, educated communities so people, can pursue a career and families can grow children and have other generations here and help support the tax base that we all need and enjoy as,
Right.
As Nevadans. It all works together. So we're all having those conversations, and it's complicated, right?
It is. It's a lot
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
trying to put everything together.
It is.
It is. If people want more information about the Henderson Chamber, is it IMPAC, the Political Action Committee, how do they go about getting
Well,
it?
it's the world's longest name, Issues Mobilization Political
Yeah,
Action
it's-
Committee. We just call it IMPAC. We have information on the Chamber's website. It's hendersonchamber.com. So people can always go on and visit our website. We have a tab on there called Business Advocacy. But also we periodically, host events. We're a Chamber of Commerce. We host an event like every day of the
Yeah.
week. But we periodically host government-centric type of events, which are open to general membership. We have, for instance, a Meet the Candidates event coming up on May 4th at Panavino, which is open and available for registration. And we bring out the endorsed candidates that the PAC board has made. And there are people on both sides of the aisle, and it's really an opportunity for the community to come out and meet people, Republicans and Democrats alike, and personally and get to know them, and also in their ear, right, about what's important to them.
Positively.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, in a few seconds we have left.
Yeah.
If, like I said, if they want to get more information, the website is,
hendersonchamber.com.
and hopefully we have it right here on the bottom of the screen. So, Amber, I thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Dan.
And this is Dan Roberts for The Last Word, and we hope to see you again real soon.